What's up, everybody? How you doing, man?
Hey, man, everything's going good.
It's a new episode of the Qtr Show. Today is Saturday, 28th of February.
Yeah, man, we got a nice, beautiful weather out there, so just glad to be here today.
It is pretty sunny, man. Actually, and we've had a couple other shows that we may go back and release the last couple weeks. This week, you probably noticed some major changes in the show. But this will be our last show for what's been Black History Month.
Yes, sir.
I know last week we mentioned that it was the 50th, that marked the 50th anniversary of Malcolm X assassination. One nugget I came across this week, kind of just in my travels or my daily commutes, was that Earl Lloyd. You familiar with him, man?
Nah.
Earl Lloyd happened to be, we make a big deal about Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in baseball, but Earl Lloyd was actually the guy that did it on the basketball side, I think 3 years after Jackie Robinson. And he passed away this week, may have been yesterday, at 83.
Oh, man, that's definitely a very interesting nugget, man, you just dropped on us.
Don't worry, it's not like I did it's not like I did a whole lot of research to get to it, but I just, I thought that was kind of timely. And he also found out that he actually played for the Detroit Pistons, which is my NBA team. So, I got to go look up Mr. Earl Lloyd, rest in peace.
Definitely.
We also, yesterday, it was announced, or was that this morning, that Anthony Mason has passed away, former New York Knick.
Yeah, man, we definitely got to send our condolences and our prayers out to the Mason family. He was a big, huge contribution to the Knicks in their playoff runs in the past. Yeah,
he was only 48. I think 3 weeks ago, I think he initially went into the hospital with it was a major heart attack.
Yes, sir.
And situation just never improved for him. But he passed away at 48 years old. Actually, he was on the Knicks team that made it to the finals, I think, versus Houston in 94.
Yep.
Six-man in 95. I won't go a lot into it. I just, Mace was always had the nice graphics in the hair.
Definitely.
And he they invented the term point forward for him, right?
For him.
So that was pretty interesting. He was always, just kind of the prototypical New York Knick player.
Yeah, is he from New York originally?
Actually, I think I looked it up. I think he's from Florida.
From Florida, okay.
Played ball at a school, I think it's Tennessee State. So,
okay.
But he fit the city very well with his appearance and everything, and the haircuts. So I always liked Anthony Mason. Yeah,
man. Like you said, I guess he went into the hospital originally about 3 weeks ago with a heart attack, and we're 3 weeks later, and they're just now saying that he's passed away. So ultimately, he was a fighter, in the hospital these last few weeks, and he was definitely a huge fighter and a strong contributor. A contributor on the basketball court.
Right. Well, Matt, today is we got we running kind of a triangle offense here today on the Qtr Show. We got a new team member sitting in with us, helping out on some technical things that if you listen to any of the earlier shows, you probably noticed some things were going on. And Mr. Young Charles is in there helping us out today. He's not suited up with the microphone because of some poor communication on my behalf. But we look forward to, his involvement in the future, kind of working him into the program. We just met this week, middle of the week. He was kind enough to take a meeting with us, and we're just looking at, we think he can add some production value and some other elements to the show, so we're glad to have him aboard. Like I said, he's helping us out today. You won't hear from him, unfortunately, but, just welcome Mr. Charles to the team.
Yeah, man, we're truly blessed to add Charles to the team, man. Not only, is he very technical and help us on the engineering side, he's also, a big sports guy. So, that's huge, to be able to add someone of that type of value, to our team. And all we're looking to do is improve. And I think he's definitely an asset who can help us with that.
Yeah, I think we already noticed a couple of improvements to the show. So
exactly,
we just welcome Charles in, aka Chuck. Hear either one of those, you'll know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's our buddy, but he has on this ugly brown sweater today, and I'm like, man, come on, Charles, but it's all good, man.
He does mix it up a little bit with we got the Bengals being represented, and me in left field totally with the with the Washington Redskins, but it's all good. You know, it just adds to the more coverage and more debates that we'll have on the show. Only one of us, between the three of us, only one of us has a winning organization. So you know, it is what it is.
No doubt.
How was your week, man?
It was a good week, man. I know, very productive week, very busy week. Actually, you know, I'm just now getting back from a movie. Went to the movies this morning.
Already?
Yeah, man. Went to the movies. You know, I'm a cheap guy.
What you check out?
I went to go see Focus. Oh, don't give me that gas face, Wood.
We can get to that in the entertainment portion later on. You didn't tell me you was gonna check it out, so.
Oh man, yeah.
Before I don't want to spoil anything. I did have an opinion on that. Did you like it?
Did I like it? It was entertaining, man. I'm not saying it was great, you know, movie, but it was entertaining, and it was only for $5, so I'm cool with that.
Right. Went with the missus?
I went with the missus, and actually I went with the missus' mother, my mother-in-law. Okay. So it was a good little outing. We went out and worked out early this morning, then we got fresh and went to the movies. All
right, that's cool, man. I mean, a good Saturday. My plan is I do have a movie for this weekend. I want to catch Whiplash later on tonight on DVD. I know J.K. Simmons won an Oscar for, I think, supporting actor a couple weeks ago in the Oscars. Myself, man, I took my mom, speaking of your mother-in-law, I took my mom down to Louisville last night, man, and we caught the Forever Charlie tour in Louisville at the KFC Yum Center. Joe opened up. Second base, or in the second slot, was Kim from up in Detroit. And man, it was an awesome show, man. Louisville looked beautiful. The KFC Center is a great venue. Good, real music. So I heard, you know me, I'm listening to the band, and it was some excellent guitar work. It was some sax, some horns. Uncle Charlie probably is like mid-60s.
Yeah. At least.
Right, and worked every bit of probably an hour, 20 hour and 30 minutes, man, of rapping. He did a Roger Troutman song, all the standing. You know, it's to see people reacting to songs that have just tested the time so well. Yeah,
I got one question for you, Wood, and I always ask you this. Is Uncle Charlie a professional?
Man, he is the consummate professional. I mean, he had the four when you know the older school cats, they gotta have the four females that do the jazz dances.
Right.
But they were out there, they looked lovely. But they had one segment where the end of the song, Charlie had the suit jacket on and they had on blazers too, and then all the lights went dead and they had like lights in the
Oh yeah,
you must have seen it before.
Oh, they got costumes, man. They do it big, man.
Hey, it was big, man. I mean, Uncle Charlie, he did a little of probably maybe a 15-minute gospel segment, praising the Creator, and he went through troubles and everything. It was good, man. I mean, and it didn't even set me back much, for the ticket. So, man, my mom enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Blessed.
Got some stuff up on Instagram and whatnot. You can check it out. That's it, man. I'm just looking forward. I think we got a good show today. We're going to try to keep it a little shorter this week. Like I said, we did want to work in Charles today. Actually, that's a new Charles, from the beginnings of the fifth quarter show.
Definitely.
We don't want to go back. It's college hoops, man. We can open up with that. I know we're sitting here checking out the Flyers and Virginia VCU.
Yes,
Who winning
sir.
that game? UD up?
I can't even see from where my seat is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one issue with here in the Qtr Show studio.
I know, man. You said I had to work, man, so I'm here working.
Right. We can get into it, man. Will anything jump out to you this week?
No, nothing much, man. I know Okafor he missed the game, right?
Yeah, he did miss one after the that wasn't the Carolina game where he hurt his foot, was it?
I think it was.
It was
Carolina game.
It was the Carolina game where he hurt his ankle, landed on somebody's foot. Then he missed the game, and then he came back against Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
and ended up with a career high over 30 points or right at 30 points, and I think they got the win in OT. and bringing him up, looking at March Madness, what's coming for that. I just was worried that his ankle was going to push into the tournament and become an issue because Duke already has depth issues. So, but with him coming back with such a big game and having a big impact, maybe those young body parts will help him be 100%, and maybe that won't be an underlying story, as the tournament gets going.
Yeah, you're right. The thing about Duke, as we talked about a little bit last week, I believe, Duke is only going to be measured by how they perform in a tournament. They had a couple early exits the last, few years. So, we need to see Duke make a run. But back to Okafor, man, I like his game a lot because, the big man has been missing in all of basketball at all levels. And this is a kid who actually has some good post moves, who actually likes to go down low and bang and rebound and protect the paint defensively. So he's going to be a huge asset for them as they, move forward through turning time.
Think he's the best big man in the college game?
Yes, complete big man, offensively, defensively, with some moves, running the floor. He has a nice little touch, can use his right hand, his left hand. I would say is pretty good. He has some bigs over in Kentucky. But I don't think they're as offensively skilled as he is.
Willie Cauley-Stein.
Right.
And I forget the other guys, the four.
Right.
The power forward's name. I think the power forward on Kentucky is actually the more skilled one.
Right.
I'm keeping my eye on Christmas right now in Syracuse, who has a big game today, I think, versus Duke.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Syracuse versus number 4 Duke.
Yes, sir.
At 4 o'clock.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Christmas right now because he's kind of playing his March Madness right now that they've removed themselves from this year's tournament.
Yep.
Yeah, Duke. It's a shame because Jabari Parker's gone. He's missed most of the year at the pro level, but had he stayed around to look at this team that they have right now with the wing players, and we hit on this last week, they'd probably be locking up that number 1 overall seed and probably being a favorite because, like you said, Okafor and even Justice.
Yep.
They would be doing the heavy lifting that it seems like Jabari really, even though he was a big man in high school, he just seemed a little uncomfortable at the end of the year. Maybe that banging, wear and tear, maybe it just grew on him. And by the time the tournament rolled around, like you said, to get put out, I think it was Belmont that put him out last year.
Yep.
It was a really small school. So, the damage that they could do this year would be, phenomenal. But I think Duke is still, I'm looking at them to make a pretty good run. They do have some depth issues, but like I said, it's a big plus that Okafor's ankle looks like it's not going to be, a lingering injury.
What surprises me about Duke, we know they're very well coached. They have a Hall of Fame coach, no doubt. But what really shocks me is it seems to me that when they play basketball sometime, they get in that up and down game with the opponent, and they let the opponent score too many points. I think they need to really start locking in more defensively and, try to actually, prohibit a team from scoring on them so easily. I think Duke believes that, they can outscore any team that they play. But come tournament time, you may have a cold shooting night and you may slip up to a team like Belmont. Maybe they hit a couple key 3-pointers down the stretch. And I think that's what generally is their demise, when it comes to tourney play.
That's a great point. And I think also the shooting, they haven't had that defensive-minded team probably since Battier got out of there.
Yeah, Battier.
And there was a couple other players on there, Gerald Henderson maybe. It was some other guys that played defense. But like you said, the last 6 to 8 years, it seems like they've lived and died by the 3, and they have just tried to overwhelm teams with their offense. But like you said, once you get into the postseason, teams, those smaller teams, these are teams that won 25, 24 games in their conference. They have juniors and seniors. They come in there and they run that shot clock all the way down, and it just makes stuff really tough on them. So we'll see how it goes this year. Like I said, I think they have a different mix of kids than what they've had. When Austin was there, Austin Rivers was there. And then Parker last year, they got a different mix of kids. Suleiman was put off of the team. I guess he had some attitude, or he just couldn't adjust. He wasn't delivering what Coach K wanted. So they sent him away, and I like this mix of kids, and I'm actually excited for once to see what they can do this year. Any other teams jumping out to you in the as we get ready to get into these brackets?
Man, I'm kind of interested in seeing what Arizona does in a tournament, man. I mean, Arizona, I think right now they're in top 10, maybe 6 or 7, not sure.
Number 7.
Number seven, thank you. And they have a good team, man. They're on a winning streak, I believe. They won like maybe 5 or 6 games in a row, skin towards tourney time. But they have a real good, real big game tonight. They play, I think, against number 13, Utah.
That's right.
I think it started at 9 o'clock tonight. So
in Utah.
So we're going to see how good they are. I mean, they have the kid, Johnson, who's their leading scorer. Shooting almost 50%, so he's a pretty good kid. But the thing about Arizona, what kind of I think maybe get them the ability to have a long run in tournament is they have good point guard play.
Right.
McConnell, he's can distribute the ball real well, get the big some easy buckets. So I'm looking for Arizona as one of the teams that maybe can make a run in the tournament. And then also they have a good coach. Miller is a very good coach. He's tournament tested,
one of the best.
And I think they can make some noise come tourney time.
Yeah, I think I mentioned Arizona last week in like my group of 5 or 6 teams to keep an eye out for. I think it's kind of unfortunate for them because they're in that West Coast and we haven't seen a lot of their games.
Right.
But I am looking forward. Really, remember a couple weeks ago I had the shocker when we learned that Milwaukee Bucks at the pro level that they were actually number 6 in the East, and we didn't even realize it. I looked at today's AP 25 for the first time, and I was pretty shocked that we've been looking at this as a down season for college basketball, but man, it's a lot of less than 5 loss teams out there. I'm pretty excited about. I mean, even you get down to 13 is Utah, and they only have 5 losses. It was another down at 18 was actually Arkansas.
Yep.
And they only have 5 losses. And I think that's probably a top 15, top 12 team. And I'm about to get into something on Arkansas really quick. But just looking at the top 25, man, it's a lot of better teams. I mean, of course, Wichita and Northern Iowa being at just outside that top 10, we're not used to seeing them there. So that probably weakens it. I mean, I was a big Wichita Shockers fan last year, so I'm familiar with them. But to see Northern Iowa in there, I haven't seen them in the mix in probably 7 or 8 years since they had a good NCAA tournament. But it's some pretty good teams out there, man.
Yeah, man, and just mentioning Northern Iowa and Wichita State, they're right now banging each other around. I think the score is like 72-60.
Who's up in that one?
Wichita State. They're up, the home team. And it's like 43 seconds left.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like Wichita State is going to be able to hold home court and win that game.
Yeah, for me, tourney-wise, I'll get back to it, man. I'm actually very excited to see what Arkansas does. Like I told you, I've been looking at some big men and the way that it seems like big men are coming back into play on the college level. I told you one small thing that I'm sitting here looking at is for entry passes into the post, whether it be bounce passes or even a big man that actually shows where he wants, shows which hand he wants to get the ball tossed into him. And I'm seeing some decent moves. So I'm a little excited about this Bobby Portis kid from Arkansas.
Yeah, man. Arkansas is actually a tough, scrappy team. Like you mentioned, the UD Flyers is my team, and we went down there and played them earlier this year.
I was going to mention that, but
I know you were. But the thing about them, they're tough, man. Arkansas plays tough basketball, and it's good to see a team like Arkansas get back to that level because I don't think they've been good since Mr. Nolan Richardson left, right?
Man, it's been a long time since 40 Minutes of Hell.
Right.
What's going on down in Little Rock?
Yeah, so and the thing about that area, Arkansas, they have some tough, hard-nosed kids down there playing ball. So if you are able to, recruit that area and get the top kids in that state and also, some surrounding areas, you should be able to compete, especially in the SEC.
Right, and the SEC needs that depth. It can't just be only Kentucky. And, Pearl is over there at Auburn now, right?
Yep.
But it's gonna take him. I would imagine next year he probably gets them back in the picture. At least in that top 20 to 35 teams or so. So I would expect. He's gonna bring in some JUCO kids.
Oh, you already know. You know his recipe,
right? We know how he gets it done. So I would imagine he gets it back in. But also to go along with Bobby Portis, who's actually stepping out behind the arc shooting threes.
Yes, he is.
And he's averaging 17 points per game and 8.5 rebounds. So he could be problematic for some people getting into the tournament. But I saw another thing on the roster that caught my eye as far as a tournament team. They got a junior shooting guard that's 6'6", Michael Qualls, and he's averaging 15 and 5. So tonight, I think is going to be very telling for me. And, I'm not going to say hopefully. I don't wish that on Kentucky. But, they're at Lexington tonight, so that's a great matchup, size against size with Cauley Stein and Portis going at it. And, Kentucky probably has the edge in the guards because they do have the twins. And it'll be a good matchup. But, I mean, if Arkansas could shock the world, I think I really would think it'd probably be better if historically an undefeated team is excellent, but for Calipari, to get another championship, it's probably best if they go on and get a loss before they get into that tournament.
Yeah, man, I just don't want to be going in the tournament undefeated and the media and everybody, talking to my kids every day about, hey, are you guys going to have a perfect season? It's probably best to go ahead and get that one defeat out of your way so you can refocus and regroup and re-energize the team and make that tournament run. You
got to get that sickness of a loss in you. I think it's good to get that once. But like you said, what was Indiana the last one to go undefeated in the mid-'80s?
Yeah, was that what? Smart?
Keep
Smart.
Right.
Yep.
Now with all the news outlets and SI.com, ESPN, the Fifth Quarter Show,
plug.
Exactly.
Shameless plug.
Now you got us amateurs running around here with microphones and weighing in and driving traffic and, bloggers and everybody are putting stories out there. I just think it's too much on those kids. And I do think that that's a good group of kids to handle that pressure. But I would think for all of these teams, even if it's just taking a loss, even in the conference tournament, just to conserve your players, and not play these guys so many minutes, not risk getting a key player injured. I just think it'd be good to go on and get that loss, have that bad game, and show kids, because you want to be able to face that adversity and maybe even lose to some adversity just to know when when you're up against it. So I don't know. I just think it would help Cal, in the long run if there is a loss. Yeah, man. I hopefully there's none of our bluegrass listeners, tuning in today, because I'm telling you, man, Kentucky, they don't want to lose any game. No. They are like hard nosed. We want to win every game. We never want to lose. And I think it will be good for them to, maybe not lose, just have a tough game where they have to struggle through it and do some things, because right now they're running in 5 players and then they substitute with another 5 players. It's just like their plan, their system is just working so perfectly right now for them. So I think you need to sometimes, got to refocus and re-energize when it comes to that tournament time, because you can sit up there and like I said, you can have a bad shooting night. You can get one of your key players in foul trouble, even though they have 10 of them. Right. But it just sometimes it hurts you. And then when you get in that panic mode and it's like 2 minutes left and the score is tied, it's like, what do we do now? And I know Kentucky fans will say drum, or they know what they're doing. They know what's going to, how to overcome those circumstances. But I just think it would be good, because we're still talking about 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old college kids. And when Monmouth gets you on the ropes with 2 minutes left and the crowd is all behind Monmouth, and, you're trying to find yourself, and, you're, like you said, you're trying to get these 17, 18, and 19-year-old kids to fight through, a tough spot. And like I said, this Monmouth is over here using 32 seconds of the shot clock.
With 23, 24-year-old seniors.
Exactly. And grown men and, you know, boxing people out. So, I don't, like I said, I think it'd be interesting. They do need this Arkansas game should be a nail biter, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree, man. It's going to be good ball. And we've been talking about this game for a while because I think during our first show, we said who would be the team who could possibly, slip up and, not luck up, but can overcome Kentucky and beat them. And I think we picked up that Arkansas game. Yeah,
that was one of them. I think we also mentioned Georgia, but I think it really, the big one is probably Arkansas. Like I said, I don't know if the Razorbacks have the guard play, in the backcourt to pull it off, especially in Lexington. But it should be good, and shout out to big salute to Mike Anderson for getting that program back on the national scene. And it's good to have another horse in that race down in the SEC, especially when Florida is absent from the top 25 right now, I believe.
I don't see them.
Yeah, I think they're out of there. So it's good to have a couple of ranked teams in your conference. We can stick with anything else on the tournament, man.
Yeah, man. Another team, man, I want to mention is West Virginia. They're led by Juwan Staten, senior guard. And I think, the reason why I keep mentioning teams that have good guard play, because I think that's what you need when it comes to tournament time. You need somebody to actually be able to not have a lot of turnovers and be able to distribute the ball and just be able to, understand and keep the flow of the game at their pace. You need a team that can actually, not get too just erratic with their play. So I'm big on guards when it comes to tournament play. And I like West Virginia. Like I said, Juwan Staten is their guard. And also they have this Williams kid who's pretty tough, like eight rebounds a game, 11, 12 points per game. So I think West Virginia is a team that we can look for in the tournament. And they have a big game tonight, too. I mean, it's a lot of big basketball games going on, this weekend. You have West Virginia at number 19 Baylor. So I'm very interested to see how that game turns out.
Yeah, you have, just quickly, you have, like you mentioned, number 7 Zona at 13 Utah, Syracuse at number 4 Duke, BYU at number 3 Zaga, who we have some good feelings about them this year. Vitek, who pushed Duke to overtime, is going up against the Cavaliers of University of Virginia today. Iowa State at number 12 is facing Kansas State, who just shocked Kansas earlier this week. So it is a lot of big time matchups out there in the college game that are kind of answering these questions against the top teams as we move towards the tournament. We can stick with basketball and move on to the pro level, to the association, the NBA. This week, unfortunately, all-world point guard for the Chicago Bulls, D. Rose, came down, or they found out that he was evaluated and they determined that he has a torn meniscus. He had surgery yesterday. They're projecting him to be out 4 to 6 weeks. The question obviously is, does he return this year? Long term, what does Chicago do? Coach Thibodeau, he's rallied those guys before. They had a great stand against against the Heat in the playoffs like 2 years ago without Rose, and I think they took that to 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, it was very competitive.
Very team-oriented stand, and everybody was kind of waiting to see if Rose would come back to the lineup. He didn't. For me, Stephen A. was kind of emphatic about his decision that, it's a wrap for Chicago as far as being an Eastern Conference contender. I'm a little concerned here, obviously. And I'll pass it over to you. My opinion is kind of short. The question, they came out and gave 4 to 6 weeks and were floating around thoughts of him returning for the playoffs. And I'm just like, get real. Because if this was a guy who was already on a pitch count all year long and they were, limiting his minutes and working him into going 100%, if he came in from the off season like that, how are we supposed to believe that he can come back at the most competitive, you know, you know, when this is the most contested games that you're going to play? You do have the travel days in there, but you're playing at least 3 games a week.
Against good teams.
Against the best there is. I just don't know how you bring him back and, you know, interject him into that mix. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I think he's done for the year.
Yeah, the thing about Rose is, and I kind of felt that way, you know, when I initially heard that he was hurt, and maybe, you know, he would have a long-term injury where he wouldn't come back this year. But then I got to thinking to myself, I said, Derrick Rose really has lost all his leverage. I mean, I really believe it's time for Derrick Rose to try to do all he can to get back. Hopefully he has a successful surgery, and then he, you know, attack rehab just aggressively, you know, because last year I know a story that came out that Rose had mentioned, I'm not coming back until I feel 100% healthy. I think he was cleared by the doctors last year,
right?
But he didn't feel that, you know, his body just didn't feel right.
Right.
But I don't think we can do that this year with Rose. I think I really believe, man. I mean, because evidently injuries are gonna happen, and Rose knows that better than anyone. So I think if there's any chance for him to, like I said, go through rehab and do some therapy and get back on that court this year, I think he should do that, because I think he owes it to his team. I think he owes it to, you know, the organization, and more importantly, I think he owes it to himself, because, I mean, this guy's been fighting through so many injuries, and even if he can just come off the bench and maybe play 10 minutes per game or 10 to 15 minutes per game, I think that'll be helpful for the team, because it'll just show that, you know, this guy's out here with us. He's fighting. You know, last year there were some questions about, I heard some rumblings, some of the teammates thought he should be playing when he wasn't playing. But I think if he does this, and if he's cleared now, that's the key.
Right.
That's the key caveat. If he's cleared and if the doctors feel he's able to contribute and play, I think he should do it, man, because, I mean, who knows? Next year may be another injury. So if I was Rose, I just would go all balls out and just try to, you know, get back on the court as soon as possible.
I think he has a stronger team with Gasol being in there. I think the team is better, is in a better position to, and I mean, we still had the Cavaliers working it out, and then we have Atlanta, who I'm pretty sure Chicago was like, we could take them if we were to meet up with them. So I agree. I mean, if he checks out, it is a meniscus, you know, it's not an ACL, MCL, all that type of stuff that requires more intensive rehab. But I'm just concerned. But I agree with you. I think if it goes well, and I think it, like you said, he was worried about his hamstring. He was kind of leading the discussion on when he would want to play. His brother, Reggie Rose, he was weighing in on what they should do. I think, you know, with the guaranteed, I mean, he has 2 years, I believe, on a 5-year deal, $125 million deal.
Max money.
He's got to get out there if he can get out there.
Yeah, man, it's time, man. It really is time. I mean, we want the brother to come back and be healthy, but I just believe, man, if there's any chance for him to get out and contribute to the team, and like I say, even on a reserve role, he should do it, man. If there's no more, you know, I got to get ready for next season. I mean, you can injure yourself in the preseason next season and be done for the year again. Evidently, you know, he has some tender knees, and I'm not, you know, trying to be negative towards the guy, but
not at all.
It is what it is. His knees are kind of tender and bulky. So, I mean, who knows how much longer he has to play. And I just say, man, Derrick Rose, God bless you, and just leave it all out on the court.
Are you concerned? A name that hit me yesterday and driving over here today, I recalled it again. You think this is a situation like Portland's Brandon Roy?
I hope not. Will. But that you bring up a good point, a good comparison, man. Possible comparison. It's just a shame, man. It's like, I'm not even a Chicago Bulls fan.
Me neither.
But, you know, when we heard that, it just was like, oh man, it kind of shook me a little bit. And I'm like, man, this guy can't, you know, get over this injury bug. But I really hope it's not another Roy incident or circumstance.
Right, because Roy was he was a guy that came out of nowhere. He was up there in that Northwest, you know, the tip of that Northwest territory up there, and we didn't get to see a whole lot of him in that Husky squad. But, you know, he came in the league, was able to go to a regional team, with Portland being right up there next to Washington, and he was having a big impact on the game. And I mean, we could take a second to think about where Portland would be. I know they have Lillard now, but maybe Roy was probably able to go over and move over to that shooting guard position, and they just do a 2-guard thing similar to the Splash Brothers in Golden State. So it was a shame to watch his career get taken away from him for with brittle knees. And I'm just hoping that that's not the case here with Rose. And it's funny because I mean to step on you, but
no problem.
It's funny because the ACL injury, that was his first injury in his whole basketball career, from what I understand.
First one. It's just weird, man. It's very strange, how he cannot, stay healthy for an entire season, man. But when we watch Rose play, man, he is so explosive I believe he jumps off 2 legs.
A lot of the time.
So he's so explosive off 2 legs. And I'm not saying that's the reason why, because one of the Hall of Famers, I believe he's a Hall of Famer, great players of our league, Dominique Wilkins, was off a 2-leg type of jumper too.
Exactly.
Very explosive. So I don't know what it is, but it just seems like the guy, he trains hard, his body's in shape. It's just a thing, man. It's just the injury gods. I don't know.
It mystifies me because when I tore my meniscus and it ended my playground career, I was like 40 pounds heavier than my high school playing weight.
Oh, that's funny,
if you will. And that's how I tore mine. I was playing outside, jumping around, and went up for a high layup. a high layup, came down, and something was different. And I found out I had a torn meniscus. I say that to say, here's a guy that's obviously 6-8% body fat, if that. One of the better NBA bodies, and he doesn't have all that extra weight with the wear and tear and the pounding on his cartilage in his knee. So it just shocks me that he's having these problems. Another NBA elite that's having some injuries, has having a bout with the injury bug right now, is Oklahoma City's Kevin Durant. I guess the other night after the game, or a couple of games, he's had his shoe off. He's been limping on the court in the second half of games, and he's missed a couple of games. Mr. Westbrook has just turned into this maniac. You think? I mean, they've gotten back into the top 8 in the West, and last week we spoke in depth on the potential meetup with Golden State, and now KD's his foot looks like it could totally derail what could have been an all-time playoff matchup.
Yeah, man. KD, he has to get healthy for them to have any chance when it comes to playoff time, because I just watched Oklahoma City play a couple nights ago, and I believe they played Phoenix, who's actually behind them maybe one game in the playoff standings, man. And if they don't get Durant back and healthy and, almost 100%, they have zero chance to make any noise in the playoffs. He's just another one. He's having a bunch of injuries this year. It just happens, man. A freak thing. But I'm going to tell you something about the Westbrook guy, man. He is really taking it upon himself to actually lead this team. I mean, not trying to get off Durant injury, but Westbrook is really coming into his own. I mean, the kid yesterday, he had a triple-double, I believe, in 3 quarters.
40, 13, and 11 versus Portland.
It's crazy,
man.
In
a loss, though.
In a loss. But, he's just... And the thing about Westbrook, what a lot of people don't understand, is he's only 6'3". So, he's 6'3" with shoes on. So he's able to finish in the paint at ease. He's able to shoot the 3 decently. And then, he's rebounding. He's playing good defense. He's just doing it all, man. What type of energy does that gentleman have?
I'm going to agree with that. Is that 3 triple-doubles in a row for him, though?
3 in a row, man. It's not been done since LeBron back in maybe 2009.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I mean, we don't have to stick on the KD. That kind of is a segue into the whole discussion about is Westbrook becoming the true leader of the Thunder. I think, and we've said it before, that, your play on the court and on the field goes a lot further than where you were drafted, the contract that you signed, how old you are. It's all about your production on that court. So I think the fact that Westbrook is out there and he has put this team on his back and trying to keep them in the discussion, and will probably do so. I mean, if he keeps it up at this clip, I would think that just naturally it's just going to shift around and be in his team. And this has been a very weird year for KD in general. I mean, he's another one. Never a lot of injuries in his career. This year he has missed quite a few games. It's uncertain what's going to happen for him as we move into the playoffs. And he really just seems absent from the game this year. I mean, and that's just him coping with, not being 100%. Not everybody, handles that well.
Let me ask you this question. I believe that they played some extended basketball over the summer, didn't they?
Yeah. He was one of the last after Paul George. He was one that said, look, I'm going to step away.
Right.
And he took some flack for that. But he stepped away, but like you said, he went from the playoffs right into USA basketball, and then I think last year before the season they had the world champion, whatever they call
FIBA.
Yeah,
that's soccer.
I think FIBA, the B is for basketball. I think,
it is.
Yeah.
There it is. All right,
you was on it. On it.
If only I can hit the lotto.
Right, you were on it. Yeah, I think it's been a lot of play. And even before the FIBA, I mean, the off season before that, they had to qualify for the FIBA, I think.
Yes, sir.
So it's just been a lot of play.
It's just been a lot of basketball, and that's what I'm saying. Do you think that these guys are, body is kind of breaking down a little bit, maybe need to rest a little bit? Because, I know it's just one of the older gentlemen that I talked to about sports. He's like, man, usually, we could, not get too out of shape during the off season, but, we could actually, chill out. I'm going to talk the Shaquille O'Neal type deal. We could chill a little bit in the off season, and then once we get to training camp, we can start getting back in shape and start getting ready for basketball. But now these guys are in shape and playing basketball and lifting and doing all kind of burpees and stuff all year round. So it's just crazy, man. And I think maybe they need to give their bodies a rest a little bit.
I was actually going to ask you that in relation to the D Rose injury. Are these kids playing too much? Because this is the first time in a long time. I mean, maybe since Bernard King and his knee injuries. This is the first time where it's been that many guards with all of these ACLs. You had Shumpert. He missed some time with the ACL. It was another person that had an ACL injury. I can't think of it right now. It was last year. But, it's just a lot of guys missing a lot of time. And, with the advancements in training and health and taking care of your body and all that, it just seems, in my opinion, you have the AAU scheduled, you got games in the off season of high school. They have those AAU tournaments that are being televised now. Under Armour has kids doing. It's just a lot of the definition of amateurism is just changing, and I just think these guys are playing too much.
Yeah, man. I'm be totally honest here. There's no way that the kid from Louisville, maybe a couple years ago, to see his leg break like that should never happen in basketball.
Exactly. And that was another leg injury.
And then
PG's injury, a lower leg injury.
It should never break like that in basketball. It never did in the past. So what has changed? I mean, we sit up here and a lot of the powers to be and the ownership and whatnot, they talk about they want the best interest for the players in all professional sports, college and high school, whatever. But are we really doing some research and doing some analysis on some of these injuries and what ways we can possibly prevent them? Because to see a leg for the kid in Louisville and to see
Kevin Ware.
Yeah, Kevin Ware, thank you, sir. And to see Mr. George for Indiana, see their leg break like that to me is just shocking, man.
Yeah, that was unsightly. I mean, like I said, those were a rash of the leg injuries that caught my attention, and I think these guys are playing an exorbitant amount of basketball, constantly staying in in good shape, constantly, and that's really like the hidden stat for LeBron James is his availability is unrivaled. To be that big, and he's had the cramps in games, but just to miss 0 time except for that week and a half vacation they gave him this year where he went to the national championship games and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what's kind of set him apart is that health, and where a lot of these other guys are having these issues.
Yeah, man, it's just shocking. But the thing about you said LeBron, he's been able to stay injury free. He does take some games off.
He got some rest last night.
Yeah, some veterans rest, but that's well deserved. But I look at even Shaquille O'Neal, man, he never really had any major injuries also, and the thing about that is the way that those guys get pounded on night after night, Shaquille O'Neal in his, heyday and LeBron. The way LeBron, some of those fouls that LeBron take is it's ridiculous. Just think if we actually fouled Michael Jordan the way that LeBron gets hit on a game in, game out basis.
I was watching LeBron in that awesome game he had against Golden State.
He wanted that one, didn't he?
Yeah, Thursday night. And Mike, they ran the break and they ran, they would get out and run. But Mike was a half court player. He was at home in that half court set.
Right.
And starting down on the block. It was pushing and shoving and jostling for position. But LeBron is I didn't forgot how long, 90 feet basketball court.
Yeah.
He's a 90-foot, player. There's no half court. I don't even, it may have even been my wife or it was my mom. She was like, well, LeBron, he doesn't even have a position. He just goes and gets the ball and does what needs to be done. And I think we may have had that discussion about with the final play in the Super Bowl, whereas if you have certain wide receivers, the elite wide receivers, they are the play.
Yep.
And when you have LeBron, he is the play. There isn't there is no diagram that needs to be drawn up. When he gets the ball, he becomes the play. And
it's crazy, man. LeBron, his court savvy. He made some plays. I don't even talk about the scoring plays, but the steals.
That's amazing.
He can bait you into the steals. To me, is like, oh my goodness, if this guy played football, how many interceptions and deflections he would have, because it's like he can run up the court and bait you like, I'm not even paying attention to you. And immediately, he's 270 something pounds, who knows, and to switch directions and get in the passing lanes, he does it every game though.
Speaking of the human highlight reel, Dominique, how many times you see him get a breakaway?
That's what I'm saying.
How many times you see him get a breakaway steal and go down and
they
jump
didn't
up?
play like
he didn't do that. Now earlier this week, LeBron also overtook Scottie Pippen for the most assists all time from the power forward position.
Yes,
or
sir.
Small forward.
Small from the three.
Right, from the three. So yeah, he's just, I haven't always been the biggest LeBron fan, and now I will say I did watch the game the other night where he had 42 and they took care of Golden State.
Yep.
He kind of reinserted himself in the MVP discussion, in the lead of that. And the one weakness, man, is LeBron will get bored and his shot selection will go downhill, at key points of games. But they're usually either up or they're right there. So it rarely hurts them unless they run into a team such as the Spurs last year.
Yeah, man, LeBron, he'll go playground on you.
Right,
he will definitely go playground on you with him.
Horse
playing with that basketball, and he'll be out there dribbling, and then he'll pull up with a shot that's like, LeBron, come on, man, we're still trying to win this game. But that is how he always have played the game. He's just that kind of guy. And I guess, we can just chalk that up to, I guess he has supreme confidence because some of those shots he ends up making, man. So I don't know, man. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, man, are really a scary team.
Yeah, it's going to be serious. However this East shakes up and it gets going. I want to go to the Spurs, man. My Spurs.
That's your team.
My West Coast team, the Spurs. They've been on the slide, man. And I forget what program I was watching, and I kind of wanted to point to it last week because I thought the cause of it is Tony Parker is just not having an elite year.
Yeah, man. Parker, man. Once again, man, it's like he looks kind of worn down, man. He doesn't look fresh. He has no, bounce, with his layup game, and that's his game, getting in that paint and scoring, and he's just not doing it right now. And also, you have some of those guards in the West that he plays against that he has to compete, and it's kind of wearing him down a little bit. But Parker is not doing his thing, and we can continue to talk about him. But it's Leonard, man. I think he's supposed to be in his prime, and they're talking about, I don't know if he is received a max contract or what kind of deal he has, but he has to play better for them, man.
Yeah, it seems like the transition towards him as the number one option is really stalled out. And he started the season with that injury.
Yeah, he did.
And so maybe he didn't get a chance to grow into that number one option earlier in the year. And now they're trying to find themselves. But what's catching my attention is that's the Spurs. That's their strategy, is to rest everybody, and we're not really concerned about these regular season games. We're gonna play our number 2 unit. They're gonna get a lot of time in games, and that all worked out last year. But it's just, I can't see them turning it on once this bracket gets set and the playoffs start. I can't see them turning it on and being successful. And now, I mean, they're gonna be on the road. They're in that 6th, 7th, and 8th battle, and I just think it's gonna be detrimental to them getting into that second round.
Yeah, man. I don't see any team in the NBA. I don't see anybody winning 3 straight series on the road, meaning being an underdog.
Nah.
I just don't see it happening, man. I just don't think that'll happen. I don't think the Spurs will be able to do it. I'm just looking at Tony Parker right now, and you mentioned him. I mean, his stats are down a lot. I mean, he's only averaging like 4.9 assists. I mean, he's not scoring the ball as well as he used to. I mean, Tony Parker has really, he's usually be a 8 assist kind of guy, maybe average 18, 19 points per game. Right now, he's down to Tony Parker 14 points per game. He's just not getting it done.
Yeah, that's
either,
not
man.
gonna get it done.
It's not gonna get it done. I mean, they're leading scorers averaging 14.8 points per game.
Yeah, I mean, they showed last year that it can be all about team ball, but it all kind of flowed out of Tony Parker, and it just seems like it's a lot of. I mean, he was another guy. He didn't make it to the All-Star game as a reserve, did he?
No, sir.
So yeah, and that doesn't mean all the difference in the world. But
Right.
I'm just saying, he hasn't been in any discussions for anything this year. So I just can't see if he's not setting the table. Tim is kind of doing what Tim does. I mean, he's one guy that could get to the playoffs, and he's still gonna give you 14 to 21 points a game, and 10 or a dozen rebounds and whatnot. But just difference makers, I don't see it. Kawhi is supposed to be that difference maker, and I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite younger players, but I don't know, man. I think I know they were losing on a 6-game slide.
Yeah.
That's just not good to be happening after the All-Star game break. And nothing about them is really going on an upward trend to suggest that they can get to the playoffs and flip a switch and somehow be a formidable, force in that bracket.
Yeah, man. It's it'll be interesting, man, because I know for a fact that Tony Parker and Coach Pop, they have a love-hate relationship anyway.
Right.
And usually, Pop could get into Tony Parker's head and
presses those buttons.
Yes, he does. He does very well with Tony Parker, and whatever, is usually taking place in the past is just not, coming to fruition this year because they're just not able to turn it on, man. It's just, I don't think it's going to be a good year for San Antonio. I know they have that, we can get it all together come playoff time, but last year I think they were a number 1 seed. if I'm not mistaken. So they had the home court advantage. This year they're going on the road, and they're going to have to play some of those young guns, some of those teams that, you know, really don't understand the true history of the Spurs. So they're just going to be out there like, look, I'm just out here trying to win. And I think maybe that'll be, you know, the small little hiccup for the Spurs in their playoff run.
I could be wrong, but I thought last year they finished second in the West and would have had to go on the road. I thought they would have had to play that game 7 back in Miami if they didn't end that series, or was that the year before?
Yeah, but Miami's in the East.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't have the number one over. I don't think they had. I thought it was another team that had the number 1 seed out West, but they got put out. So the Spurs ended up with. We don't have to. Well, we don't have to dig. That's just
you may be right. You may be right.
But I don't know, man. It just I noticed that they had that 6-game slide. That's just not a good thing. Washington's also in a big slide. I saw 2 layups last night from John Wall. 2 bunnies, and he just blew both of them. And they actually lost to the Sixers, the woefully bad Sixers. They lost 81-89 last night. Like I said, LeBron got some rest him and Kyrie got some rest last night as they took a loss to the Pacers in Indiana. One big win, or one statement game, was Golden State beating Toronto, who's their last 10-game split is pretty bad. The Clippers beat Memphis in Memphis 97-79, and then OKC, despite Russ's triple-double, they lost 112 to 115 in Portland. What's your MVP thoughts, man? Let's get into that.
I'm gonna tell you that game the other night with LeBron against Golden State, it actually puts him in the running, man, for MVP. I think it's a 3-headed monster right now. It's LeBron with the Cavaliers, Harden down in Houston, and Curry with Golden State, man. But the thing about it is LeBron has the name. He has his team playing extremely well right now, man. And if I had to pick a team, I had to pick a person for the MVP, I would probably still go with Curry, since they have the best record in the NBA. But LeBron is right there.
And this was a good weekend because Thursday you had the matchup with Curry and LeBron, or the teams playing each other. And then tomorrow Sunday, you have Harden and LeBron playing. I think that one is in Houston. So you're going to get to see kind of the big three in that, all matched up against one another over the span of a couple of days. And you can kind of side with who you want to side with. One big discussion this week was whether Russell Westbrook deserves to be in that MVP race. And I don't know, man. I guess maybe I'm just rebelling against conventional wisdom and everything. But here's Russ doing everything that he's doing. I mean, he just averaged, I believe, 27, maybe 8 rebounds and 6 assists for a month or something. And it's only been done 10 times. Oscar Robertson did it 8 times,
right?
And then LeBron once, and now Westbrook. And all I'm hearing is that Westbrook can't be in the discussion because the team is not in that top 2 or 3, seeds in either conference. But my thing is, we talking about most valuable player. I mean, obviously, if you take this guy off his team, they're 10th or 11th in the West. And I that's kind of bothering me because these guys are benefiting. I mean, the MVP really benefits from having a great team around him.
That's true.
And I just feel like Russ, he's going to have some historical numbers that he's going to put up. His team may get into that 8th or 7th slot, and he can't be an MVP just because what? Because we got this age-old... It's like arguing what the strike zone is.
Right. Yeah, I just think, man, the MVP, I understand it's the most valuable player, but I think you need to have a successful team. I'm not saying that Oklahoma City is not being successful.
Right.
I will say this. I think Russell Westbrook, if he continues on this tear, should be first-team All-NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
Easy.
But the thing about it is, I don't think the wins are there. I think, you know, when you lose to, as good as he is, they still lost to Phoenix. Last night they still lost to Portland.
Right.
So they're losing some games. I mean, those are some great numbers, some great statistics, but ultimately it comes down to winning, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, it'll be good for Russell to be in a discussion, and rightfully so. He deserves to be there. But I just think your team has to be a little bit more successful. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I understand. And when you said going against conventional wisdom, I think that's a great way to put it. But hey, man, anything can happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, like I said, I know I'm pushing a big rock up a big mountain. But I'm just when we get to MVP thoughts and who gets in. I mean, I'm gonna look at it like this: if Houston does well tomorrow, if they win or it's a close game, I mean, Harden's got to get the edge, because we're forgetting that D12, Dwight Howard, he hasn't been suiting up lately.
You're right.
So LeBron is over here playing with Kyrie on a nightly basis, and Kevin Love, 3 or 4 other guys, you know, people who have history of winning. And I just feel like it's a little unfair. So I guess for me, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, I believe Harden is probably going to get my MVP. A couple other NBA things came to mind while we're here. And I mean, we did this in the parking lot. Ray Allen.
Yep.
Is he coming back? Somebody going to sign him? Is he going to go somewhere? I mean, I don't really like this. I don't really like what's going on right now with him just hanging out there.
Yeah, man. You know, honestly, man, you know how I feel about Ray Allen. I wouldn't want him on my team right now. I'm good without him, because the reason why is, even in the last couple playoff, you know, years that they had, I mean, they had some success in Miami, but he's a defensive liability, man. It's like anybody who, you know, is actually, you know, Ray Allen is checking, they're immediately going to that player and they're abusing him on the defensive end, man. So, I mean, if he comes back, it's okay, but we're talking about, we're going towards March now.
Right. And
we're still debating, should Ray Allen come back? It's just, he had a great career. He's a Hall of Famer, and we love him to death, man. But is it fair to the other guys who've been out there competing, who's been out there giving their all, and now if he comes back, he's going to have to come back and play, because he wouldn't just come back to sit on the bench, right? So he's taking minutes from somebody else. I just don't think it's fair, man.
I thought one thing, you know, maybe you do it defensively, you bring him on and sign him so somebody else doesn't get him, and you either play him or you don't play him. But you play, you know what I'm saying? You make a defensive personnel move to keep somebody like maybe a Cleveland or Atlanta. Not that he really go there, but you just put him on your squad so that he can't go to someone who may have, you know, maybe somebody's missing a key player, and they would go for him. But if you already have him on your bench, they can't get him. I don't like it. I know last week I said something a little unconventional about Penning being missed 6 games. So I
like that one though.
Yeah, I'm being a little contradictory or contrarian or whatever you want to say.
It's good for the show, man.
It is.
It is.
But
it's good.
I think I don't think he comes back really. I don't think nobody really needs him.
Nope.
He could probably help somebody like Memphis.
Yeah.
But we can move on after this to KG's return to Minnesota. But if he didn't have that big shot in the corner, his last 3 years of service really wouldn't have been that much of a highlight anyway, for the reasons you mentioned of him being a defensive liability.
The thing about it, man, and you know, people think that I need to get off that Allen Iverson kick, man, but it's like, I mean, I look at a person like Allen Iverson. I think him and Ray Allen maybe came in the same year.
Very close, if not that same year.
So I'm like, I mean, we can sit up here, you know, play almost 2/3 of the season, and then, you know, we can let Ray Allen come back. And all he does is give you a cup key. They're key now. Some open shots, man. But it's not like he's breaking anybody down. He's not playing any defense. He's not getting any. Ray Allen's never had great handles. He only dribbles with one hand
in a straight line.
So, I mean, but that just goes to show you, man. It's like, I guess guys get this reputation about, he can help, he can do this, and it just follows him, throughout his career. But I don't want him coming in, breaking up team chemistry. And I say if a guy like Ray Allen should get the benefit of the doubt to come back, then when Allen not trying to make his comeback and they were talking about he needs to go to the developmental league, I don't respect that.
AI didn't have a foundation, man, right?
I got you, man.
Ray Allen got a foundation.
I'm going against conventional wisdom.
Right, you're doing it J style.
Right.
So this week, man, KG went back to Minnesota. He was once termed as the big ticket, signed a $120 million deal.
He was getting paid.
Yeah, he was one of the last ones to get that first. One of the
last of the Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans to get that big deal out of the draft. Now you got to earn it. Any thoughts on that, man?
Man, I think it was great, man. I think it was great for Minnesota.
Did it humble him? Because he's been a hellion the last couple years,
yeah, he
man.
is, man. He is,
so
man.
Did this humble him maybe and maybe allow him to end his career in a happier place?
I think it allows him to end his career. I don't know if it humbled him or not, but probably I know because he's just a different kind of guy. But I think the plan for him is to come back, do some mentoring to some of the younger guys. They have a great young nucleus, but I think maybe they're going to eventually, maybe he's going to go upstairs, man, and maybe get a part of the ownership team. I don't know, man. I can see KG, somebody told me maybe he become a player coach or maybe he coached the team because right now the coach is Flip. I don't think Flip wants to go back upstairs. He does not want to coach. So
isn't this Flip's second time around in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's his second time.
Okay.
Because I think Flip wasn't he like up being part of the executive staff, and then they fire their coach or something.
Something like that.
And so Flip came.
Oh, when McHale went down, they got rid of McHale. He had to go down to Houston.
Right.
And there was some mix up. Okay, yeah.
So I think KG maybe is coming back to to mentor some of the younger guys, and also maybe eventually become part of that administrative staff and maybe help lead them to the future because they have some young talent, and I think with the right leadership they can make some noise. And also I know he has aspirations to become a owner of an NBA team, so I think that's a good fit for him going back home to Minnesota.
When you start out with $120 million, I mean, he was on his way very early to having that ownership money.
I mean, KG, of course, Shaquille O'Neal,
Big Dog,
they were getting them big paydays.
They were getting that 3-figure contract.
That's why they locked them out, man. That's like, hold on,
right.
Hey, we gotta lock the doors and let's do some renegotiation.
Move this cheese around.
Exactly. But I'm happy for KG. I think the Nets, they were actually being considered to make the playoffs this year, right?
They were. I mean, it was a thought that they could, but they've had all types of issues just as a unit. I mean, as a franchise, it's just been a turbulent 2 years for them. I mean, one thing that I noticed, I'm always digging, trying to find some angle. I went and looked at Minnesota's roster. KG went over there at $12 million for the season and became the team's highest paid player automatically.
Wow.
Now that's just his senior, his tenure, but that just speaks to the dearth of talent in Minnesota. But like you said, I don't really want to focus on that, but when I looked at the salaries for the year, I was like, $12 million. Then I went over to the left and it corresponded with KG's name. I was like, ugh. But like you said, they got a young nucleus, man. We don't know what his whole game is going to do, but we saw his athleticism and ball handling on display in the slam dunk. But they have Shabazz from UCLA. He's averaging like 13.5 a game. You have not Jabari, but Wiggins is out there with almost 16 a game. There was a couple other. Adrian Payne, who hasn't Dayton product. He hasn't quite figured out his role yet, but another young guy. I didn't even know Kevin Martin is there averaging 20 a game. Now he probably is not going to be around as they get things turned around in Minnesota, but I'm just saying they have a young nucleus.
Yeah, man, and I say this. What better way for a kid like Adrian Payne to learn from a guy like Kevin Garnett, man? I mean, you guys are almost about the same size. You guys, do some of the same similar things. Of course, Kevin Garnett is a Hall of Famer and on a whole other level. But I'm just saying, what he needs to do is he needs to say, hey, coach or whoever, can you please have my locker right next to Kevin Garnett's, because Kevin Garnett has to be just like a wealth of knowledge, and you can, actually learn from him and let him share some of that wisdom, because Adrian Payne, his career is early, but it's kind of in limbo. I mean, he's been back and forth, from the D League to the regular roster for the Atlanta Hawks, and now Atlanta's just traded him to Minnesota. So, I mean, with them getting Kevin Garnett, I think you need to actually, lean on him and just try to soak up some of that, basketball history and a way to become a better pro.
Yeah, and he also has some health issues. I forget what his condition. He has a medical condition that affects his energy.
Right.
I don't think it's diabetes, but it could be.
I think his
sickle cell.
No, his heart is small. He has a very small heart for a guy his size.
Okay, I know it was something that affects his daily energy levels. That it has to be monitored. So it could be in jeopardy. It's just a shame for him, because he's a guy that stayed 4 years when he could have left after that third year, tried to come back and get his team over the hump and, in the big dance. And that didn't happen. And now, he gets there. They find out about the heart condition, and it is what it is for him. Speaking of another Spartan, man, I just want to hit this before we can move on. I know we're getting well past the halfway point of the show. But, man, I looked at Draymond Green the other night against LeBron, man. And we've been talking about Golden State and their aspirations to be, of being NBA champs. LeBron towered over Draymond Green, man. They got him playing a 3 or a 4. I mean, he doesn't have that great athletic body anyway. I mean, he's a little big up top. I mean, he's broad up top, but I mean, his legs are very thin. I just can't believe he's that small, man.
He's small, and I know we talked about him maybe the first week, and I said Draymond Green is working himself into maybe a big contract, and I know a lot of the people were like, "Jerome, what are you talking about?" But Draymond Green, man, is definitely getting more with less, man.
Oh yeah.
He's just, I think he had a very good game the other day against Cleveland. I mean,
big dunk, got the big energy dunk.
Yeah, big energy dunk. LeBron was banging him around like a little rag dog. But I'm telling you, man, Draymond Green is done well for himself. I think he was a second round pick. Second rounders really don't survive in the NBA because only the first rounders have guaranteed contracts.
Right.
So, man, hey, kudos to him. Kudos to him for staying and experiencing college for 4 years and making a start of his career be pretty successful.
Yeah, I just that was a clear cut or a clear example of just how undersized he is, and it just made me wonder, how was he so successful in the college game, being a 6'4", 6'5" post player, the focal point of a team. It just speaks to he's been outnumbered and outmanned and outgunned his whole career, and he's just still putting up great numbers. So I wish the best to him, and we'll see what happens. Really quickly, I heard yesterday I caught Mark Jackson on the air with Stephen A. And Stephen A. actually steered the conversation around to Kerr versus Mark Jackson. And
thank you.
I was kind of shocked that Stephen, well, not really, because Stephen A., he's a pro at what he does. Despite you may not like some of his positions and whatnot. But he actually just asked him, you know, he beat around the bush and worded it right and all, but he asked him, you know, is he doing this with your team? And it was just it was a big man thing for Mark Jackson. And you know he's a man of faith. And he spoke eloquently about it and said that he wasn't going to join into slinging any mud. You know, he said he summed it up with, you know, we can do both things. We can credit Kerr for having a great start to his career. And he said, you can also credit me because, you know, we had 3 years of going to the playoffs and that hadn't been done there in some time or hadn't been done ever. And all he really said was that the stories were unfounded about him not watching tape, some of the arguments between him and his coach, that him being difficult to get along with. He just said all that stuff really wasn't covered fairly. And I just was amazed that Stephen A brought him on the show and then turned on him like that to try to get some answers out of him. But that was some real journalism, you know, that Stephen A displayed. So it was an interesting conversation.
That was good, man. And, you know, I'm over here looking at you speak about, you know, what happened. And that's good because we all want to know, how does, you know, Mark Jackson feel about it? Because,
right.
I mean, Kerr, I mean, I don't know, but I think he got this huge contract.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to become a coach at Golden State. It was a bidding war, right? Because I think New York wanted him also.
Right. Phil was looking at him.
So it's like, I mean, I don't understand how a guy who's his first year ever coaching any team, if I'm not mistaken,
right,
get this huge contract, and now there's discussions for him to be the coach of the year.
Right.
I mean, a team was already put in place, man, and I watched him the other day against Cleveland, and I don't know, man, what kind of value that those coaches add, you know, when it comes to the X and O's, but he's not doing much, is he?
It's hard to see where his impact is, other than the most important of all, that win and loss.
There it is.
You know, that just sums it up.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're gonna move on to this NFL, man. Like we said, again, we got a extra man in the backfield with us for a triple option this week. Charles is on the boards for us, helping us out with some technical stuff. We just found out. I didn't notice his sweater when he came in, but he is a Browns fan. I'm not going to hold it against him. Like I said, I'm here in Ohio, and I am a Redskins fan. So, you know, it's good to have different teams here mentioned here. Usually we run out with with football and NFL, but, you know, we got into some other things to kick things off. We only have like 2 more segments to kind of go through, and you know, we're gonna get into this NFL. Of course, there's a lot of movement right now, a lot of players being released. You know, they're looking into franchise tags. I think they have to be in by Monday, right?
Yep.
So teams are trying to get geared up for next year, and they're trying to get, you know, make prudent decisions on, you know, how we're gonna pay guys. You know, with respect to the cap, you know, you only got $100 million for 55, 56 players, so it becomes tricky. We did get 7 new head coaches in the league this year. One thing that we didn't get to touch on last week was, out of those 7, who can win right away?
Yeah, man. That's a good question, man. Brand new coach, who can win right away? I'm gonna have to go with. I'm gonna go with a sexy pick. I'm gonna go with sexy Rexy.
Rex?
Yes, man. I think Rex Ryan can win right away in Buffalo. And the reason why I feel that way, Buffalo, if you watched them play last year, they were very competitive, man. I mean, they were pretty much in every game. Their downfall was quarterback play. They didn't have a really good, you know, signal caller to lead them, you know, to more victories. But if you actually, you know, peel back the onion a little bit more with Buffalo, you'll notice they were ranked number 4 in total defense in NFL. Their defense is stout, man.
Yeah, they got some horses on defense.
So you look at a guy like Rex Ryan coming in there, and he's a defensive guru. So, you know, he's going to add his little salt and pepper to the mix and season it up real good. So they're going to be strong again defensively. They just have to somehow, you know, find some good quarterback play. I mean, we thought it was going to be Emmanuel, but I mean, I think he was hurt last year or benched or whatever. But if they can get just adequate quarterback play, if they can get Sanchez quarterback play that he had with the New York Jets, and they went to 2 AFC championship games. I think Rex Ryan is one of the coaches who can make Rex Ryan and his team, Buffalo, can make some huge noise in the 2015 season.
I would go with Kubiak taking over in Denver. Okay. Obviously has Peyton Manning as his QB.
That's a good one.
That's a good feather to have in your cap starting now. And he has previous coaching experience, previous playoff experience with leading a team to the playoffs. But I'm going to go with the relatively unknown guy, a rookie head coach. I'm going to go with Quinn going to Atlanta. And I'm going to just go with that because I think that's a soft conference. It's going to be some change up there. I mean, a team with, 8 or 9 wins this year represented them in the playoffs, that NFC South. So I like Quinn coming over. I mean, he's not going to have, his defense that he had in Seattle. He's not bringing any of those guys out of there. They did release Harry Douglas and longtime Rams running back Steven Jackson, one of my favorite running backs of the last 10 years. They released him within the last 48 hours. But, I mean, he has a proven quarterback in Matt Ryan. We don't know what he is in the playoffs, but, you got Julio. You have Roddy White. I'm surprised he's not looking something in his contract because he's been around for a while. But I would imagine, I think that's who I would go with is Quinn. That would be my guy.
Yeah, man. Atlanta has a lot of offensive weapons down there. They just have to, one, improve that porous O-line. Their offensive line is not up to par, and they can't protect Matt Ryan. It's crazy how, how they don't give the receivers enough time to get open because the D-line is in the backfield immediately. So They need to actually, work on their O-line. And if they can do that with the weapons that they have, they can definitely make some noise. I like Buffalo because I just think that Rex Ryan is a defensive guy, and I think he pretty much has that blueprint that I think you mentioned last week. A stout defense, a quarterback that can make the timely throws, maybe a couple key throws in a game that lead you to victory. And I think if they can get that quarterback who can do that and manage the game and not turn the ball over, I really believe that Buffalo can be one of those teams to make some noise also. And you mentioned a good point about, teams playing in a kind of soft conference. In Buffalo, I guess you have the Patriots and the Jets.
And Miami.
And, I mean, of course they have the Patriots, the defending Super Bowl champions. But I think the other games, I think they can split with New England, and you should be able to if you want to be able to be a serious contributor, in the NFL. You need to split and win your home game. And I think the other games against the other two teams, they can possibly sweep those games.
I agree.
So I think Buffalo and Atlanta are two good picks of some new coach that can, make some noise.
And Buffalo's not bad at all. I mean, I really enjoy watching Buffalo because I like defense. I like watching defensive play, and they had an outstanding unit. The Manuel thing didn't work out. Orton was a short-term answer. Spiller, I believe, is a free agent. I think he'll be leaving. He kind of never really he never put together a whole season there, during his time there anyway. So Buffalo's an interesting spot. I mean, we do have to admit that New England, it will be a year older. But they get some guys back next year. So that AFC East will be interesting. I think Miami is in a tailspin again. They let Hartline go. I think they let another wide receiver go, and I believe they're either trying to get Mike Wallace to restructure or they may part ways with him. So I don't know how you start your season out with the whole new wide receiving core. It's amazing the year-to-year turnaround that these NFL teams do. Before we move on to any other eye-catching roster moves, anything that caught your attention, Lovey's in a tight spot down in Tampa Bay.
Very tight.
Because things didn't go well in year one. I mean, it wasn't a market, turnaround or improvement in wins and loss. He still doesn't have he doesn't have his quarterback. They cut McCown. McCown is caught on now in Chuck's team, Cleveland.
Yep.
One of Ray Farmer's moves. I saw a very bad stat on him. I won't say it because I can't find the source right now. 13 years? 1 in 10. Charles has given us his first nugget on the fifth quarter show. 1 in 10 as a starter last year. I know he had 11 touchdowns, 14 picks.
Yeah.
Some guy, some NFL guy, he said out of 22 starts, and I tried to find it before I could, but he said out of 22 starts, McCown had 44 interceptions. And I'm like, man, that can't be true. I don't want to doom and gloom you. I'm sorry, Charles. I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll move on. Where was I getting to, man? I got all off. Eye-catching roster moves. Well, I mean, before finishing up with Lovey, he's got to do something with this number one pick, man. And if he doesn't get it right, and I know you have the concerns with Winston, then you have the actual, being under center, reading defenses, throwing in tighter windows for Mariota. But if he doesn't get this thing right, man, he could be two and done down there in Tampa Bay, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I mean, Lovie Smith is definitely tied to whoever they select in that first round. It is sad to say that, man, but
it's just how it goes.
It is what it is, man. So whatever they decide, whether it be Winston, whether it be Mariota, whether it be trade the pick and get more draft picks, hey, man, I hope they make a good decision because Lovie is a good coach.
He's solid.
He's a good coach. I mean, he's a team guy. His players play hard for him, and he knows his football. So just hopefully, the thing about NFL football, I think everybody needs to be on the same page, and that comes from the ownership all the way down through the GM and the coaches. Definitely. So whatever Tampa Bay decides, hopefully they're all come to a good consensus agreement and can make some noise this year.
Yeah, I think I saw that they wanted Vincent Jackson. They want him to restructure his deal. Well, that money in the NFL is a hard thing to divvy up. Really, I want to get through some of this quick because we want to try to keep this episode a little short. But but he does have, Doug Martin he took a step back last year as the full-time running back.
Yeah, he was on a trading block.
Right. Mike Evans was the one. I mean, they gave all that money to McCoy in the middle of that defensive line, but they did have the breakout rookie in Mike Evans, 6'5" receiver that had some great production, in his first year, which kind of ties into the combine. We talked about some different things in the combine last week. This week, we had the question of whether or not the combine is overrated. And actually, before I left to come over to do the show, I saw that it's a timely question that you bring up, Jay, because they're looking at maybe adjusting the combine drills and taking a look at 60. I saw taking a look at 60-yard speed for wide receivers and then maybe 20-yard speed for linemen, and just getting around to some evaluations that are kind of position specific instead of having some 320-pound offensive guard run 40 yards when he's probably going to run 5 to 8 in a real play,
right?
If that. So speaking of Mike Evans, when we watched those wide receivers last week, I mean, man, I could see 12 wide receivers going in the first 12 picks. I mean, just because of what they did. I mean, just what they did in all the measurables.
Yeah, man, those guys had to immediately finish their college season and go straight to working out, man.
That's one of the best groups I've seen.
It was off the chart, man, the way that those guys performed, in Indianapolis last week.
Is there some money associated with it? I want to say somebody got, or maybe it's if you get the best in one of the drills or something. I thought I heard somebody got a gift or something, or if you do I had to look into it. But I thought I heard maybe even a guy that from UAB that ran the best 40. I thought I heard that he got a gift of some kind. But anyway, it's just I think a lot of guys, like I said, even for my Redskins with the 5th pick, it's going to be hard not to, to turn a blind eye to what you saw those guys do, knowing that we need a young number one wide receiver, and to see those guys at 6'2", 6'3", running what they ran, lifting what they lifted, jumping as high as they jumped, and like I said, trying to turn your team around, knowing that you need to be able to strike from long range. I just think the combine is it can sway a team's direction.
Man, I'm gonna throw this at you guys, Wood and Charles. It's like you look at the combine, right? And that was last week, and then you look at the NFL cuts that happened this week. So it just goes to show you, man, like, where the NBA is hard and tough to break in and crack, NBA roster. NFL is like, look, okay, you guys want this big money. You're a veteran player. We're not paying you. It's just not happening, man. So you have these guys out here at the combine. They have these fascinating numbers, great stats, great film. And then the next week, they're starting to cut veteran players. So this goes to show you, man, that not only are we in awe of the performance that those guys put on in Indianapolis, also the owners and the guys who make the decisions in the NFL, because it's crazy how these guys like Reggie Bush cut. We can go on, and I think we have another segment about that. But it's just that I don't know, man. It's the things that those guys did actually put on or performed on the combine was very, very fascinating, and also it kind of deceives you too, because those guys practice just certain small aspects of those tests to perform well. And how does that actually translate to true football playing, though?
And that's what GMs and scouting departments that's what they're tasked with doing, is to figure out how this correlates to, like you said, that on-field production. Because, I listen to the hips, the fluid in the hips. I listen to all that stuff. Mayock says a lot of stuff. It all sounds great. McShay and a bunch of these guys, what they do is awesome. But it takes, and that's why I'm kind of excited for this year, because our new GM in Washington, he's been credited as one of those guys that eats, sleeps, and everything else football, and comes up with these guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round that turn into all pro players. And like you said, I do think that it's some players here and there that you get a chance to see how they match up against, their peers. I think one thing that I look at it for, those small, meticulous, details that these guys work on to improve is some of this stuff. Like I've heard them say that the 40-yard dash is 17 steps.
Yep.
And if how you can get that 17 steps in your head, that's remarkable to me. Mm-hmm. But that's $5-10 million, of mastering that 17 steps. So I say all that to say, I'm just I'm just in awe, and it lets me know that how these guys care about being professionals, how they plan to be a professional. I think it speaks to that, how you do in that. Now that other stuff, it can be worked out. For me, any lineman, I work out a little bit, Jay too, and we haven't talked that with Charles yet, but any lineman, man, that comes in and does 12 reps on the bench, I question, your focus.
Right.
I question your focus, because I'm almost 40 and I don't do a whole lot of bench nowadays, but I can give you 8 reps on 225.
Easy.
And so for a dude, like you said, you just ended your season, went to the senior game, the Shrine Bowl, all this stuff, and you come in and do 12, 13 reps on that bench. I got some questions with you.
Because when August and September roll around, and actually when the practice start, you're going to have a grown man pushing on you.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you can't throw up 225
and play with it,
you got some trouble coming up, man. You got some trouble. So you got to be strong and be able to hold your water, as the coaches say. But the thing about it is, you know, when I look at the combine, you know, what happening as we get closer to our shows get a little bit further down the road, you know, we'll start looking at, you know, how these guys actually tested at the combine. But, you know, we'll have a list of players. Well, I'll have a list of players, and I'll be like, well, these are my top 5 guys at each position. But if one of the guys who are one of the top 5 guys at each position is not on my list but has great combine numbers, so I guess it'll give us the chance to actually, okay, well, this kid has great numbers at the combine. He's on our top 5 list, but let's go watch the film. Right. So I think that the numbers at the combine gives you an opportunity for them to go out there and show how explosive they are, to show, you know, how fast and how their quick twitch muscles are. Mm-hmm. And then if it doesn't show up on film, I don't know if I can really trust your combine performance.
Yeah, because, you know, you're not facing that resistance, you know, on the field as you're doing that stuff. You're just trying to stay loose and you know, whatnot. And like I said, you've already broken these drills down into segments of the whole drill, and you've improved on that stuff. So it goes to show that, you know, you can be a football player and you can be a workout, you know, a workout beast, or, you know, somebody can give you a simple task like work on these first 4 to 5 steps of this run, or get out of these breaks here and there and blah, blah. You can do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think the combine shows you're the type of professional that you want to strive to be, how coachable you are, how mature you are. And then you got to go back that up with what you actually saw on film and go from there.
Yeah, man, because ultimately, man, the film doesn't lie. You know, you got to pass the eyeball test. So you have these great numbers, and what it can do is it can definitely help the kids that are like from these no-name schools.
Exactly.
And I think it gives an opportunity to compete and you know, run some drills with some guys that are considered the big name schools. So I think it's definitely a place for the combine. There's an opportunity for you to earn some money, and actually it's an opportunity for you to lose money also.
Really quickly before we move on, do you think the combine is better? Is a better kind of tool or part of the equation than the pro day, or do you like the pro day better than the combine? Because last year Teddy Bridgewater's pro day killed him,
right?
And he made that decision to throw with gloves. Although
right.
He didn't. So, which one are you a bigger fan of? We can move on.
That's a good question, because you didn't give me my true option, and I wanted to say which one I'm a bigger fan on. And if I may, I will say I'm a bigger fan of the film.
Okay.
I'm a film guy. I want to see what you do against competition. I want to see how you interact with your teammates, and I want to see how you perform on third down. See, third down is a key transaction, business transaction, because I think NFL football is a business, but it's a key transaction of a game. You win or lose games on third down. Every team, you win or lose games on turnovers, but third down is becoming as big as turnovers and the concept of playing football. So I want to see how you perform on 3rd and 3 and you a D lineman, and how you can get off your block, or how you can complete your assignment and be successful. You know, I want to see how you win on 3rd and 3 as a cornerback. Are you trying to play loose coverage, or are you up there playing press and competing to let them know that, hey, I'm not giving you that quick slant for the first down? So right. I'm a big film guy. What do I like? Respect more of the pro day, or do I respect the guy competing with out there with their different or strange receivers? If you're a quarterback, I think it should be better for them to compete at their pro day, because for one thing, especially with a quarterback, you don't know the kind of the depth that certain wide receivers are going to run. You don't know when they're going to cut or do some, you know, little small details of their route running. So, I mean, if you can, I would respect you more if you go ahead and compete at the combine, just to show that you're a competitor. But if you don't have the best day, but if you followed up with a better day at your pro day, I can roll with that.
Right. I'm just going to add, I think, like you said, your smaller players or from smaller schools, I think it's a good chance when they get that invite and they can go and show, because they didn't have that same, it's not an apples and apples comparison to who they guarded week in and week out. So it's good to just go and stand amongst those guys. Everybody just has a number on their chest and a position, and you just show what you can do. One quick thing I saw just was interesting, just before we get on to this next subject. I saw them throw out there that it may have been the NFL Network, their Twitter account. What if Gurley went to Seattle?
Man, oh man. Lord have mercy, man.
Georgia's was it Todd Gurley?
Yep.
Todd Gurley. What if he went to Seattle? Now, speaking of business, and I'm getting off subject a little bit, but I think it's an interesting question. Speaking of business, if Gurley was there, the beast mode situation it throws that into a total, tailspin.
I know, man. It's
but that's that business though.
That's what business is about, man. Yeah, we just talked about
cheaper labor, younger, faster, stronger,
without all the attitude,
without the Skittles on the sideline.
Right. So I don't know what's going on with beast mode. Has he signed his contract or what? Did he get offered a contract?
Yeah, I didn't see any developments on him. I didn't want to derail where we were going. I just saw Gurley in Seattle and thought that's a heck of a marriage right there. And what a break for a guy that had the leg injury and had such a phenomenal season going before he was in that Heisman discussion and probably would have been in New York had he not suffered his injury. So
Gurley's a monster.
He'd be fun to watch.
Yes, sir.
I almost got into something else. We want to wrap this up in about 20-25 minutes. So we're gonna move on before we get to a little buzzer beater. We only had 2 buzzer beaters this week. Baseball, man, it's getting running. I see Giancarlo Stanton is back. He took that ball to the face last year. I saw he has a new mask or a new helmet to try to help him out. Really quickly, I saw he had that $300 million deal, and I saw like 5 guys are actually going to be making more money than him this year. That's got to be an awkwardly structured contract, because the number I saw in the list, he was only making $6.5 million next year or this year.
So what did they defer the money?
That's what I'm saying. It must be. I don't know the detail. We don't have a department. It might be something we get with you on, Charles, is looking up these. But that's just what I saw, man. The big story this week is a fun guy that I've admired the last several years, man. But Anaheim's or Los Angeles of Anaheim, whatever it is, the Angels. He had some relapses, and he reported himself in having some and falling back, and I guess he struggled with some of his demons, man, and his disease, addiction disease, and I guess he had some run-ins or some use of cocaine and alcohol, and that's just the big story this week.
Yeah, man, it is very unfortunate, man, because we thought, or he thought probably, everyone, his team, everybody thought that he was past that stuff. But the thing about it is, man, I don't know, when he actually gets involved with that stuff. But what I would, recommend for anybody is, if you have some addictions and they're very tough to get over, try not to associate yourself with some of those situations where you can, get involved with that, Right. So I hope Hamilton can get it worked out. Like you say, he's one of the players that we enjoy watching, and we just want him to be successful and to be healthy, man, and continue his career the right way. Yeah,
it just seemed like since he left Texas, he's kind of been in a decline anyway, and it's just making a bad. I mean, and this is kind of separate because this isn't totally production and health related in a way. I mean, addiction is part of somebody's health and all that. But his numbers have declined since signing that $100 million deal, and it's just unfortunate because it's like it could put baseball in a big flux. Like, how do you invest in these guys? Because I mean, now I guess I overheard a conversation with them trying with Pittsburgh trying to be proactive and keeping McCutchen around, and they might have to give him, some $130, $140 million deal, but it's going to have to be awkwardly structured because of their financial constraints. So I'm just looking at now. I mean, first here with Josh, first thing, like you said, I hope his life isn't affected. I hope he can get his life back together. I know he's married, and I've seen the story about his recovery from drugs and getting back. I mean, it's remarkable that he missed 3 or 4 years from the game.
Yep.
And was actually able to come back and be productive. And somebody mentioned the home run derby performance that he had that year.
Right.
I mean, that's the best thing I've seen in that weekend, that All-Star game weekend. I mean, probably all time. I mean, the man hit, it was over 20 home runs in one round, right?
He put on the show.
And so I don't know, man. It's just been, I mean, he's had the drug situation. I know at one time they were talking about, and I know him all too well because I'm a Tigers fan, and we ran into him and the Rangers, on the way trying to get to those pennants. And they were always there. But it's just been like ever since, things started going south in Texas, there was some issue about his eyes, with the sunlight on certain days when it was really sunny. His batting, averages was horrible. And it's just been a bunch of bad stories for him. And I don't know, I just like to see a guy pick himself up off the ground and get back running again. So I hope that he can put it back together. I don't know if a suspension is coming, how they're going to handle the failed test. But, I just hope he gets his life back together and maybe can finish, somebody actually asked a question on one of the shows this morning if he could resume the numbers that he had from 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, come on, man, the guy is much older now, and that's just not likely. But can he come in and have 22, 24 home runs, hit a decent average, and be good in the field again? I just want to see the guy out there having fun again.
That's the key, man. And let's keep in mind, this is called a game, and it's the game that they love, and they get paid, handsomely well for it. But like we're over here speaking on, man, he just needs to get his life in order. He needs to get healthy and be able to, to stay off some of those past demons. And we're not judging him. Like we said, this is an addiction. When you may need to get some help, and hopefully he's getting the right help. But I just want to make sure that, and hopefully that the teams that some of these professionals play for, if they have some good support systems in place for them, because I mean, we all love them and we care about them when they're hitting home runs or making game-winning three-pointers. But, when they go through some of these, dark times, we want to distance ourselves from them. You may say, Jay, but, I mean, he's had this problem in the past. He's had a second chance or a third chance even. But still, he's still a human being. He still needs to get the help and the care to, so he can, move forward and become a productive, individual. And hopefully that's opportunity is given to him.
Yeah, this is definitely that situation where we look behind the face mask, behind the eye black, we don't look at the number on the back. And, for someone like him, he signed a $125 million deal in 2013. So he's getting, he's got $20 million coming to him in the next couple of years. But, it's hard for some people to empathize with the guy when he has, seems to be holding a full house. But really, when you're struggling with yourself, when you can't do what you set out to do on a daily basis, that's one of the worst illnesses that there is, is to not be able to do what you want to do. And like you said, it does take staying in constant contact with a family, a friend, or somebody. I mean, we see what happened with Josh Gordon on that airplane with his teammates.
With his own teammates. Come on, man.
I mean, to bring up the Browns again, Charles. But yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's some type of positive ending, and he can go on with being a good father, family man, and player, and a good teammate. I know those guys are counting on him.
Well said.
We get into these buzzer beaters, man. We got buzzer beaters, a little entertainment, and a couple of closing notes as we get out of here. Again, you know, take a quick minute. Like I said, we got Charles on the team today. Myself, Wood, co-host Jay, or just Wood and Jay. We don't even need to have titles. But you can find us at the Fifth Quarter Show on Twitter. We're hoping to have a great quality show today so that we can put up and send some links out there to start sharing with people the way that we really want to, so we can start focusing on things we want to do down the road. But before we get into those closing notes, just two quick buzzer beaters, man. Kansas lost to Kansas State. I think that was in Manhattan. I think Little Manhattan or Little Apple or whatever they call it. And, you know, Kansas in the top 10. Kansas State, they've been struggling ever since Frank Martin left.
Yep.
And Beasley went through there. They just kind of haven't really, you know, had those great teams that they had grown accustomed to in Manhattan. So they got to win this week. They stormed the court. I think there was some contact with some Kansas players. I didn't get to read through that whole story. I've been doing, you know, I was in Louisville with moms, and I got it taken away from my preparation this week. But quickly, should we ban those, or do you hate to see that leave the college game?
Man, this is the quick buzzer beater. I can't be all long, but I tell you this: as a parent, the one phone call you don't want to get in the middle of the night is your kid has been injured in any form or fashion, and I think that we need to make them safer. It's not a healthy thing to have all those kids storm the floor, and then, you know, you have some kids maybe have anxiety attacks. Who knows what they're going through mentally. So I think it needs to be safer. I think it needs to be, you know, more, you know, restricted on how they storm the floors, so the players are kept in a healthy and safe environment.
Well said. I agree. I do agree with that. However, that is one of the best, that's one of the best occurrences. It's one of the most like natural. I mean, it's like American. I mean, it's apple pie. I mean, yeah. It's the fabric of college basketball, and I'm a huge college basketball guy. So I would hate to see it totally leave. But we are seeing a couple of instances where the win maybe doesn't really warrant a court storming, and that's kind of plays into today's, you know, the way that people follow these athletes on Twitter and bash these guys for, you know, senselessly bash these guys and talk and you know, are real harsh and just very disrespectful to these athletes. So it is a safety concern. So I would like to see them stay. I don't know, you know, this would take away from it being impromptu or being natural or being natural. And, you know, all of these instances when it can be a court storming, it's not always a team dribbling out 8 or 10 seconds, you know, and the opposing team can kind of get near their bench to make a quick exit. The only suggestion that I could say, man, is maybe if we could agree to maybe have an 8-second or 12-second clock that would come on right after a game, and that clock would have to run off after the game clock, and that other team has been able to get off the court and get into the locker room, and then you could storm. I mean, it's not, you know, natural, and I can't even think of the word, but it's not real time, but you still would be able to do it, and you would still be able to get out there and celebrate as a university and as a student body. So I hope they can figure out some way to kind of work them in. Second buzzer beater. LeBron's went to, I don't know if he went to Twitter or just the media in general, but he's telling folks to stop offering his kids scholarships. 10-year-old son.
Here's my thing on that, man. I mean, if it wasn't LeBron Jr. and son, this would be a non-issue. I mean, I know there's instances where they are offering scholarships to these young kids in 7th, 8th grade, whatever it may be, but it's silly, man. It's just it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be because it's LeBron's son or Jane Doe's son. I don't think you want to offer any kid a scholarship at that age until you know that they can actually be a viable asset to your program.
I agree, man. Well, I don't even have to spend a lot of time on this. You know, for some people, this would be good. I remember, well, nobody probably even would remember his name. And, you know, if that's LeBron, it's great that he is who he is and he can come out and say that, and it'll probably, you know, it probably will cease. Have you seen any videos of his son?
Yeah, man, I watched him play, and the thing about it is, I mean, the kid is LeBron's son, but in our coaching and being around a lot of kids and a lot of youth, I've seen kids just as good as his little son. So it's not like he's doing anything that's extraordinary than any other excelled type of basketball player at that age. But he's a good kid. I think it's just for the media, it's something to talk about. But I think it's a non-issue. His kid should not be offered a scholarship at that age, nor should any other kid be offered a scholarship, because you just never know about what these kids really want to do when they get older, as they, mature and become, juniors and seniors in high school. I just say let them be young, let them be kids, and let them enjoy life.
Yeah, I think his father is already going to. I think he probably went to him with went with him to the World Cup last year. His father is already going to expose him to a lot of experiences that you and I and Charles that we weren't able to take in real time. I mean, he's already been in 5 finals, or 6. So he's seeing a lot anyway. This is probably, small beans to him. And in my opinion, if you're wasting time with LeBron, son, you're really not focusing on your job of going out there and getting real talent that's going to help you win. So I think you discontinue doing that myself.
Yes, sir.
That's the only 2 buzzer beaters for this week. Get into some entertainment quickly. Man, I actually just watched this morning, with me traveling a little bit. I just watched this week's Empire and Being Mary Jane. We don't have to get in those today because it's not like they pay us. I will say one thing, and we got 2 other topics here that we are speaking on. But man, one show that I got into this year was NBC's State of Affairs with Katherine Heigl. I came down and I told you, I was like, I love this show.
Right.
Man, they ended that show so poorly this year, man. Some of the story kind of fell apart from the opening weeks anyway. But the last week, just quickly, they were trying to get this one terrorist, and she had an operative go over there and try to get him. Things happened, and it was some mix. It was a little bit of Hollywood, they didn't get who they thought they got, whatnot. So for the final episode, man, she goes and leaves to go over to the Middle East. I think it's Afghanistan, one of them places. She actually goes over there single-handedly and tracks this man down in a 42-minute show.
Oh my God!
Tracks this guy that's eluded them and invaded, this dragnet of the whole intelligence community, and she goes over there single-handedly. And by the end of the show, she's face to face in the middle of the desert, staring this man down with a pistol on him. And I said, man, y'all had me into this right here. Y'all had me.
So, what's that show called again?
State of Affairs.
I thought you were talking about like Spider-Man 10 or something.
Exactly.
It just, them shows not believable, man. It's crazy.
But they had me though, man. They had me for
you like that's your show.
They had me for 6 weeks.
That's your show, man. But
I was tweeting with one of the lead writers on there. He had favorited something I said because Alfred Woodard did a good job, man. But when they sent Catherine over there and she wrapped that up in 40-some minutes, man, I gotta let it go. It may not even be back next year.
So it's not picked up for another season?
I don't think they didn't announce that it was picked up. It is a lot of money invested in the show, so it could come back. I saw some of the showrunner was hopeful. He doesn't think that the fans totally understood it, and how can you when she's in the desert shooting terrorists? But
right.
It's up in the air.
Is Katherine Heigl the knocked up actress?
Yeah. She started on Grey's Anatomy.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I like her. She's pretty good. She's decent.
I was impressed because she was like part of the group of producers that put in. When you invest in yourself like that,
gotta love
I'm gonna check it out. So
gotta
like
love
I said, the writing it was serious, man. And I've been looking for some serious TV to get into, and it started out serious, but that episode right there lost me.
Yeah, I can see why.
Right. Thanks for backing that up. Another blonde female that's having some problems in the world internationally. Your topic for today's entertainment was the criticism on Iggy. Iggy is it Azalea?
Close enough.
I get her and the other Azalea. I get them two mixed up.
Okay, yeah.
Azalea Banks and Iggy Azalea.
Right.
But you were asking, your comment was, is the criticism really fair, man? What you got on that?
Yeah, this past week, Iggy was on the Sang and the Gang radio show, and she opened up about some of her trials and tribulations, with the hip hop genre. She's been successful. I mean, she's won an American Music Award. I think she received several Grammy nominations for the new Classic, which is her album.
Okay.
And it was a nice top Billboard chart album, so it did pretty well. So they asked her a question. They asked her, does she get the respect within the hip hop community? And here was her response. She said, ultimately, they don't respect me as much. It's very frustrating for me because, I have personal relationships with a lot of these people, and then they don't understand that I'm just in the game to try to, improve it. You're laughing. I'm trying to keep a straight face.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
trying to keep a straight face.
Sorry, man.
And she said, and she thinks that she's not getting the respect that she deserves. So she says deep down, people, they act like they don't like her, but in real life, they feel that she's a big contributor to the hip hop game. So my question was, is Iggy getting a criticism? I mean, is the criticism really fair for Iggy? So for me, see, I don't look at Iggy as a hip hop artist.
Exactly.
See, I look at Iggy more as a pop artist that does some rapping, I guess. So I don't understand why. Now, this is what they need to stop doing. They need to stop putting her up in hip hop categories, though. The award shows.
That's what messes it up.
That's what messes it up.
That's what creates the. I mean, it's bad enough she has the sales that she has,
right,
as a rap artist, and she gets spins that rap artists typically don't get. But then to give her awards and nominate her for in those categories, I think that's what really touches a nerve.
Right, and the thing about it, but then she makes comments like this, where I mean, does she think she's a hip hop artist? Yeah,
I mean, when she gets into the act, if you're being pushed out there and the machinery is all behind you, just do your job. You just be doing your job every day.
I mean, but she's pop. She's like Katy Perry to me.
Exactly.
But Katy does more singing.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I just think that, I first thought that the criticism was kind of unfair for Iggy, but when you constantly preach that you're a hip hop artist and you're a rapper, but you're not a hip hop artist, she's a pop artist.
Yeah, she's a pop artist. I'm gonna say, I just want to throw it out there, man. Pop music has been my side piece for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, I really love pop music. I mean, I feel like it's more creative and it's more honest about what it is. So I can get into that. And it's a lot more musicianship, I think, in pop music. So I've been digging pop music the last several years. So, but now they're trying to fortify pop music by adding the hip hop edge to the pop music.
Right.
Now, why are we going to bring those two worlds together?
It's ridiculous, man. It's the thing about it is when pop is so closely related to hip hop, and when hip hop was all about, having a nice R&B singer sing on, well, hip hop was about having a nice R&B singer sing on your hook.
Right.
And
to get you on the radio.
That's so far distance now. It really bothers me because it's like throwing away, we have an issue with our R&B not being a big commodity to, the radio scene and to the music scene as a whole. But when pop is now becoming the form that's replacing R&B, when it comes in terms of hand in hand with hip hop, it's an issue for me.
Yeah, it's definitely twisting things and taking things in a direction that's even worse than where it started going. And to get back to your question, man, I think it's not like Iggy is gonna quit. It's not. She's not gonna turn in her papers tomorrow.
She's making money, huh?
Yeah, she's making money. So just play your role, continue on. I think I saw some people referring to the way that she speaks as being instead of accent, it was called black scent. It's like you said, she's really a pop artist that happens to rap.
Right.
And everything she does is like really it's a pop song. So I just accept it as that. And, you know, I'm sorry if she's going to continue to have all the success that she is, and in the background these other people are yelling whatever. That just goes with the, you know, that's just part of the program. I mean, when you are what she is. I mean, so, but that's when, you know, when somebody brings you in to use you to make money and to, you know, you just, let's move on, man. Let's move on to part 2. We're going to get out of here in the next 10 minutes. Drake's on the road.
Oh my God. Yes, he is.
We talked about how big Beyonce's album was, being, you know, her doing something totally new and releasing it online. Jay-Z released his with a cell phone or whatever. D'Angelo released his, and, you know, at midnight, and, you know, everybody's doing different things. But for Drake to release his and have 535,000 equivalent album units sold in the week, and then what you brought to me, I saw the headline of him having more records than number 1 records than Jay-Z and all that, and I didn't get into it, but I looked into it today, and I guess all 17 songs of the new project are in the top 100 on Billboard.
That's amazing.
That don't
even sound right, man.
That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess the only other group to do it, or the only other act to do it, was the Beatles back in I think it was the 70s or something.
Right.
I didn't shut my computer down. But they did it in a time when there weren't, you know, digital downloads. You know, every record had to be pressed up individually and whatnot. You know, have you heard the album? Which is being dubbed more of a mixtape versus like a real studio album. But have you heard it?
I have not heard it.
Okay.
How is it? I heard you did the snippets, right?
I can't even say I did a lot of the snippets. And it's not even hating on Drake. It's just, you know, I feel like Drake is like this next generation's guy. And I'm comfortable with that. And I just watch him from afar. I will say what I hear. I mean, the guy writes very well. He's a thoughtful person. You you understand what he's rapping about usually. I guess I just never got with him because I never really, you know, I was never really into. I like people that raise up from the ashes, and, you know, from them urban areas that's, you know, been destroyed and economically challenged and all that type of stuff. I guess I just tend to listen to those artists, and now those aren't really the types of guys that are coming out. And so I just never really got into Drake's backstory. And I told you many times, man, I really don't give my money to artists who don't really need my money. And he's doing very well.
Yeah, man. Drake, the thing about Drake is when Drake has his little spats or beefs with some of the other hip hop artists, you know, that are out there, you know, Drake famously always says that, you know, I'm not making a diss record, or I'm not battling on wax with another rapper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a hit record so my record can play for the next several weeks on the radio, in the club, et cetera, et cetera. That's how I will win my hip hop battles. And see, when it comes to the true essence of hip hop, it's about battling. It's about, you know, going back and forth. If you're called out, it's not about any drama or no beef, but it's about, you know, showcasing your skills.
Right.
And I that kind of bothers me with Drake, because he's another one. I'm sorry. He's pop. He's kind of a pop artist, but the thing about Drake, he gets a pass because he's loved by so many people. Where Iggy is not getting that same kind of love, Drake is getting love from, you know, your backpack kind of guys. He's getting that love from pop artists. He's definitely getting love from the R&B crowd because, you know, he sings. So, you know, I pose the question, is Drake becoming one of the greats? I have to admit, man, Drake is starting to get up there with some of the, you know, great artists of our time, man. I hate to say it. The guy does have bars. He can rap. One of the things that, you know, probably he gets a knock on for a lot of hip hop, you know, fans, because he does a lot of singing. But the guy actually can rap, and over the last few years, he has improved. He's improved his delivery, he's improved his flow, and he's improved, you know, just his showmanship of being a true hip hop artist. Sorry.
Yeah, man. He's I remember I was on third shift, man, and going home in the morning when the girl song was out with him and Wayne, and I couldn't even tell it was two dudes at first I couldn't even tell them apart. But then this other guy was like, well, this dude right here, this is a different dude. I don't even know if they had a video for it and whatnot. But like you said, he came out one way, and I've seen the progression to now. And I just think, man, I respect his work rate, his work ethic. He seems to always be in the studio. He works with a lot of different people.
Yes, he does.
He also really keeps his own team pretty tight-knit. And he kind of puts his city on the back. I mean, the dude is trying to have, I mean, he's in his city, you know, courtside, being an ambassador for the Toronto Raptors. I think he's just living the life, man. I mean, what's bad in Drake's life right now?
As we always say about Jay-Z, constant winning. Drake is winning, man. It's like, I mean, I heard a little article the other day from Tyga and Chris Brown talking about we're not going to mention Drake anymore in our songs or our interviews because all we doing is giving him, you know, publicity, and we don't need to be doing that. We need to be focusing on our own movement, you know, kind of throwing a little subliminal shot at Drake.
Right.
Like, you know, they can make Drake famous.
Right.
So Chris Brown and Tyga, however you pronounce it, released their album the other day, and they sold like 70,000 copies the first week. Drake releases a mixtape that was free from what I'm hearing. It was a free mixtape, but I guess he eventually put it on iTunes so it could be sold.
Okay.
And he's already gold.
Yeah.
For something you can get for free.
Yeah. And it did 187,000 the second week.
I mean, you can actually go somewhere and find this for free, right? But people are actually buying this, and then you help me out on iTunes.
Hey, man, it's like I said, I don't know what's bad in Drake's life. I tell you, in my discussion on it, the one thing that I really like to see, and for Drake, I mean, I know he has these album titles, and this one is, if you're reading this, it's too late and whatnot. And the memes are out there on Instagram and Twitter are actually kind of hilarious with the different thing that they're associating the title to. Anyway, I would like to see the guy get back into acting.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, like I said, I think the one thing for me and him that, you know, I will probably never really be a big time supporter of him. Although I love some of his bars and his writing. I love it. And it's good that his delivery has improved and changed and varied and all of that stuff. But I guess he's just never made that concept album that really is like that book. You know, is a well-written book that really draws me in, and nobody really makes those anymore. But I'm just saying, I guess he's coming around at that age when, you know, that's not what the standard is. And back in the day, you know, when Tupac, Nas, and some of these guys, Jay-Z, you know, when they signaled, well, now you got to do a double album, you had to deliver a double album.
Right.
When your competition did a metaphor song where, like, me and my girlfriend, and his girlfriend was his gun.
Right.
And Nas had his song about the gun, and Jay-Z had the song about diamonds.
Yes.
When other people set these standards, and you gotta, when back in the day when people started making the love song raps,
right,
the love anthems, you had to do that.
Right.
And I'm just saying, he's coming along at that era where there is no, you just do what you want to do, and you ignore what the man next to you did, and that's that.
It's crazy, man. And you're talking about, you know, being authentic. You're talking about being creative and thinking outside the box and challenging yourself, and you're seeing what the next guy is doing who's actually respected in this genre, and you like, I want to do it better.
Right.
So you just brought up some good points, man, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But I just say one thing about Drake, man. I think you said something that was very, you know, ear catching when you said that maybe he needs to, you know, get back into acting, because when he hosted that ESPYs, he was so natural, man, and just so like
matter of factly
at home. Like, the guy is talented, man.
Right.
He's very talented.
Saturday Night Live, he was great on that.
He was great on that also. And it's like you hear him rap, but then when he gets on, starts to do his little acting or does an interview or, that type of thing, he just changes, man. He has so many sides to his personality. It's very, I have to commend him.
Like I said, he's finding a way to win, man.
Yes, he is.
We done with today's topics, man. I just want to get into a couple closing notes and get us out of here.
Please.
Like I said, we want to thank Charles or Chuck for sitting in. We're going to try to work with him this week and see what his availability is. Like I said, we want to find a way to incorporate him into the show. He's helped us out a lot today. The show has went really well. I'm looking forward to getting this one up on the internet and sharing it with people. Maybe in 2 or 3 shows, we want to move the podcast to an actual podcast site so that people don't have to go to YouTube. But, Charles' involvement will possibly, let us look into what's next for us. We've been enjoying doing the practice shows and trying to share them with everybody. But we really have bigger plans that we want to get to. So, like I said, we just thank Charles for sitting in today. He did some great work for us today that you're not even aware of. We're not going to hate on him for this brown sweater. I'm just playing. And like I said, I apologize to him because I could have told him to bring a mic because I did have some different ideas to work him in today. But this did give him a chance. We thank him for sitting here for this hour and some change because it gives him a chance of what we're shooting for and, get him comfortable of where he thinks he could add value and everything. And I'll just say one thing, Jay. He's a younger man than us, but a lot of people aren't willing to invest a little time, take a little of their time to do something, because he could have been like, "Oh, I'm not talking today. I'm out. Peace."
Believe it.
So for to sit here and help out the project, our movement for this hour and some change, that's kind of it's a quality young man, and I'm glad that he took a moment and responded to the ad that we had at the school that he's attending, which is about audio and video and recording and whatnot. So I just really thank him today for sitting in with us. And you can speak to that in a minute too. I just want to say one thing that I forgot to hit up, and I don't even know if we'll get this up in time to share with people, but tonight I'm actually going to a charity event for my gym. I'm at a boxing gym, Drake's Gym downtown, Dayton, Ohio, and they're actually having a charity event tonight where 20-something amateur fighters are going to fight someone else. These are everyday people that are actually brave enough and courageous enough to go in here and fight in front of their friends, family, and coworkers and everything. So being members of the gym, me and my wife are actually going out to support people, that we work out with on a daily basis. So, it starts at 8:00. It's a live band afterwards in the basement at Memorial Hall, and it's called Knockout 2015. Drake's Boxing Gym Knockout is the name of the event. I posted it up on my Instagram account the other day to kind of advertise it for people. It is $20 at the door. But it's a great event, man. And like I said, I'm real big now on a lot of supporting local stuff, local bands, local. Friday last night was actually, metaphorically speaking, was held at the at Therapy Cafe downtown. And because I was in Louisville, I didn't attend that. But we eventually want to start getting out here to these events and trying to, do some networking and help promote some of this stuff, is another thing that we want to do in the future. So I just wanted to drop that in there real quick, man. Go on and get your closing in.
Yeah, man. I think you said a lot, man. The thing about it is we will get out to more of the public and start doing some things. Last night I was actually at Taste. It's a restaurant, and they had a live band there, and I was just there scoping things out because eventually I want us to get maybe advanced enough where we can be a little bit more mobile with our show and maybe possibly host a show at a restaurant like the Taste, and maybe have like a draft type party or a draft type show where we're there and the NFL draft is going on, and we can have some live comments from some respective actual fans of the NFL football, and just to get the comments from them on how their team is picking during the NFL draft. And also, I think our next big event for the fifth quarter, we like to maybe get some callers calling in and get some of their feedback, and then maybe have a group of callers or a group of listeners, maybe get like a pool going with the March Madness. And, have some kind of, maybe who has the best March Madness bracket. Maybe we, have a special gift. Well, we will have a special gift for them. And it could be anything from t-shirts. It could be anything from gift certificates. So we're going to really take this to the next level. And the reason why we're able to do that is because with the addition to Charles, and I mean, he's been very instrumental in just this short time. I mean, we just met with him this week. And he has already elevated our game and our ability to put this show on. So, with Charles on board now, I think we can start thinking about maybe, getting more mobile with the show. We can also start thinking about, getting our little March Madness bracket and some giveaways, because I think now we have a little bit more confidence on the quality of the show. And I think that kind of held us back a little bit. So now with him being here, and we commend him tremendously, because he did not have to sit here, and he's here, he's giving us feedback. I'm looking at him right now, he's nodding like, no, that this, maybe that didn't go as it should win, or this should have went this way. So even though he's not speaking, he is giving us some great interpersonal communication. And we're just glad to have him, and I think he's definitely going to be a huge pickup for us.
Well said, well said. Yeah, we will definitely look into this bracket. What, we got 2 or 3 weeks for that?
Probably 3, maybe
3, I think.
Yep.
So we're going to strongly get that bracket out there and promote that. Like I said, Charles' involvement will free us up to kind of work through these things over the next couple of weeks and get that going, getting people participating. And we're also hoping that Charles can lead us home on getting these call-ins worked in. We know we've had some people who've rung this, giving us a ring the past couple of weeks when my shortcomings didn't result in things working out. But we are still working on that, and want to really, listeners are gonna be the show. We just want to facilitate the conversation. We feel like you guys have way more interesting input than us, and it's more from the heart. It's more natural and off the script, and that's what we really want to get to, is making the space for you to hold those conversations, and give you a place to voice your opinion and get some of these teams straight. Because in all of these leagues, it's only one team that's happy at the end of the season.
Believe it.
So we got, 31, 29, 27 teams, and all these, other teams that need to get a comment in. So we want to build the place to make sure that can be heard.
Yes, sir.
With that said, we're just going to close this out. Again, you can find us on Twitter at the Fifth Quarter Show, capital T, capital Q, capital S, at the Fifth Quarter Show. We're getting ready to take some pictures in here to close this out. Hopefully get the Instagram account running, and, we can hold different discussions on there. And, next week, I'm trying to get some surprises booked, but, I got to work these phone calls, or work on making these phone calls to get people to commit. So we thank you for your time today. Feel free to holler at us any way that you can. Again, we thank Charles immensely. I'm gonna sleep better tonight, and knowing that the work that we do is actually being captured in a better way. So, we'll just see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Fifth Quarter Show.
Peace.